How's it everyone, this is Lolcohol, and in today's video I'm going to be making a new wand for the Kinetic Fusillade Elementalist. So the modifiers I'm going to go for on this one are going to be targeted at a Trinity version of the build. So I did some pobbing, and this is my current build, right? My current build with my current wand sitting at about 25 million damage. I pobbed various other kinds of wands, like a wand where we don't use Trinity, and then one where we go like cold lightning pen and then cold lightning spell damage, just to compare the various versions. And what's actually looking best is if we instead go with 8 projectiles, so we drop greater volley and then we stick with Trinity and put in elemental damage with attacks. So this hopefully should be about a 17 million damage increase, about 70 something percent. The reason this is so much extra damage, we're able to drop the number of projectiles we have, but that means we can push up our attack speed for people who are familiar with the build. So what we're going to be making is hopefully something like this, where it is flat cold, flat lightning, spell damage, and then double damage while focused, or double damage, or crit multi, and then crit chance. That one is really, really important. You can make one that is like flat lightning, spell damage, pen, something like this, but this doesn't look like it's going to be as much damage, although it's like really, really similar. So I will try to, by the time this video comes out, have a written version on how to craft all these different variations depending on the type of build you're playing, as well as maybe a more budget version, but that is what we're going for today. So the first thing we need to do is we need to fracture this flat tier 1 lightning. I went out and bought these. They cost about a divine each. Some of them were a lot cheaper, but fracturing orb, 3 divines a pop, hoping that we hit these. Nope. And this one, yes, we got it. Okay, on the second one, I am not going to use the rest of these. I have been impoverished for the majority of this league, so I'm sticking with this. So this first step on average will cost, let's say you pay 1 div for the wand and then 3 div for the fracturing, it will cost you about 16 divines on average. Now the next step is we need to use Deafening Essence of Woe until we hit flat cold damage. Tier 2 is about a 1 in 560. Hitting tier 1 is about a 1 in 2,900. The weight is abysmally low. So I'm willing to stick with tier 2. I popped it. It's not that significant a DPS difference. So we're just going to roll for it. I'm using a kinetic wand, which makes it easier to hit cold damage. There's fewer mods in the pool because it cannot roll caster mods. And it's already pretty hard to hit this. It's going to cost on average 8 divines to hit tier 2. Hitting tier 1 is about like 40 divines worth of Essence of Woe. And these Essence of Woe, they're granting us increased spell damage. Oh, tier 2. Man, it's also like a decently high roll. It is very tempting to go for tier 1, but it's like a 1 in 2,900. So I'm going to stick with this because the next step is not that great either. What we firstly need to do is we're going to go, prefixes cannot be changed because our prefixes are now done. And then we're going to give it a scour. So, and scour. And now prefixes cannot be changed. And we're going to augment crit. Now, the only 2 crit tagged suffixes there are crit chance and crit multi, both of which we want. Those both have 6 tiers. So we're going to go crit, add. So what this will do is it will add a crit and then remove a modifier. So hope for crit chance high or crit multi. Tier 1, first time. Oh my goodness, it's Lolcohol's lucky day. But we're far from over because now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to use a Veiled Exalted Orb. So we're not out of the woods yet. What we're going to do is multi-mod this, and then prefixes cannot be changed, and then Veiled Exalt. That's going to remove a random modifier and then add a Veiled modifier. So it is a 1 out of 3 that it removes that crit. So 3 crafted mods. Prefixes cannot be changed. The reason I went for the org first, the add remove, is that this adds a modifier, then removes. So you can't do the same trick where it is a 2 out of 3 for success. It would instead be a 50-50. The functionality of Veiled Exalt, because it removes and then adds, it's able to make space even when we have full suffixes. So now we just wait. Cue the Jeopardy music. You know what? Let's just buy one for chaos. And then it's going to remove a mod, then add. And we're just hoping, please don't remove that crit. And it didn't. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. I had some trauma off stream where I was trying to do profit crafts. And they went so astoundingly badly that I'm just convinced that like my luck is ruined this league. So let's just talk about what we can unveil here and also what we should block. Let's head over to its Craft of Exile. So the modifiers we want to hit that are good are chance to deal double damage when focused, crit multi when a rare or unique is nearby is actually really good. And then the other one that I actually really want is this, crit chance and strength int. The next thing is, what do we need to block to improve our odds? So what you want to do is look at all the veiled modifiers and take a note of the ones you want and the ones you don't want. Then have a look over here at these numbers over here. Any mods here that have the same number, these share a mod group. So if I were to bench on increased damage with Frenzy Charge, Endurance Charge, and Power Charge, they're all part of this mod group of 17. So if I were to bench on any one of these, it would prevent any 3 of these from being unveiled. So if I were to bench on this, it would block 3,000 weight. Down here, we actually have Chaos Dot, Cold Dot, Fire Dot, Fizz Dot. These are all part of the same mod group. They all have a weight of 1,000. So we're actually going to block any one of these. So Cold Dot, we'll first do that, bench that on. That blocks a weight of 4,000. And then we just need to hit Unveil. Double damage, crit multi, double damage while focused. Any one of those would be fantastic. Double damage while focused. And it's perfectly rolled. Okay, so this is best for damage. It is an extra button though, which I'm fine with. But it is 20% more damage while focused. Now the only thing left is to bench on the last mod, which is crit multi. There we go. And here, actually it's not done. You know what? It's not done. There's one other thing I want to do, and that is, so we can do quality, right? We can change how the quality affects the items. One thing we could do is increase attack speed per quality, or crit chance, or elemental damage. For this version of the build, what I actually want to do is either elemental or attack speed. Because we now need to push up our attack speed to just under 9.09 APS. However, we can more easily increase our attack speed than we can this. So I'm actually going to go increase elemental damage per quality. So there's another 10% increase elemental damage. So here is our new wand. We can actually pop it into our PoB. This was our original one, 25 million damage. And here we have our new one, 35.3% more damage. Chuck that in, and here we go. That is an astounding damage upgrade. Obviously, that's only while focused. While we're not focused, it is not as big a damage boost, but like I spoke about, having those burst buttons, it's really, really, really big. Another thing is this is really going to fit nicely into the 8 proj version of it. So with this version, it's pretty close to what I theory crafted with this. This one is just like slightly better because it has tier 1 instead of tier 2. I don't think we're going to find anything quite like this if we price check it. So what we can look at is elemental DPS and the crit chance. This base crit is huge, means that we are crit cap much more easily. Spell damage and that. Are there any like this too? We need to see what's on the trade site. So we have this one. Fire damage, spell damage, cold damage. Doesn't have lightning damage, which is really important. And here is one very similar to what we made, except instead of double damage while focus, they have cold damage. So I would call this a win. Now, for the other versions of it, should I just do it as part of this video? I guess I could. All right, bonus video. So for people who want to, instead of going for cold and instead want to go for elemental penetration, we can go with that craft. So this would be flat lightning, spell damage, penetration, and then you can do the suffixes in the same way that I did, or you can just multi-mod it. Let's just look at how we would do this. So for this one, you could actually do this craft on a prophecy wand because our prefixes are incredibly deterministic with this method. Prophecy wand gives you that base increased spell damage. However, do take note that its base attack per second is 0.1 lower than kinetic one. Let's just do it on the prophecy wand for the sake of example. Same thing. Step 1 is either buying this or self-fracturing that flat lightning damage. So let's just do that. And then what we want to do is we're going to Essence of Woe until we get an empty prefix. That's it. So something like this, we would hit it again, hit it again. There we go. So something like this is perfect. You could even keep doing this until you get a good roll on your essence because it's not too hard to get that empty prefix. However, now I think what we need to do is we go over to the crafting bench and we're going to go prefixes cannot be changed. And then we're going to Veiled Chaos until you get a veiled prefix. So you could do something like that. The downside of this is that you now have this full item. This can happen. Or what could happen is you do it and you get a veiled suffix like that with a crappy prefix. An alternative method is we get to this stage and what we do is we go prefixes cannot be changed, scour, and then we go can have up to 3 crafted mods, prefixes cannot be changed, and suffixes cannot be changed. And this now will force a veiled suffix. Alternatively, what you could do is you could go prefix cannot be changed, scour, and then prefixes cannot be changed, veiled, if you don't mind a prefix or a suffix. That works too. But with this method, you can also do it like this, and it actually might, you know what, it might actually cost the same to do it like this instead of the veiled X. Last league, I used this method because veiled X got up to like 20-something divines. So that's why I'm repeating this. If this Veiled X starts being like 10 divines, then this method will be a bit cheaper. So Veiled Chaos, it can't remove any of our prefixes, can't remove any of our suffixes. Then we've got our Veiled Suffix, and we want to remove all the mods. And then again, we're going to bench on any one of those damage over time mods, cold damage or fire damage over time multiplier. And then we unveil. And let's see, crit, beautiful, perfect. So we got this now. Or you could do DD while focused, but I'll probably go for this. There we go. From here, all you need to do is remove crafted mods. And what I would do at this point is just multi-mod it. So can have up to 3 crafted mods, crit multi, and on our prefix, we would go penetrate. So something like that. If you want to do the lightning spell pen, this is probably how I would do it. If you do, in fact, want to go for the veiled prefix and then do the suffixes in the way that I mentioned before, you could rather just go for the YOLO Veiled Chaos back all the way back in step 1, where you end up with the like this, and then just YOLO Veiled Chaos. If you don't hit it, this would be perfect. So you would just unveil. Good news is you have a very, very, very high chance to unveil attack pen. I think you almost always get this. So you would have something like this, then you would go, prefixes cannot be changed, scour, multi-mod, or do the suffixes in the other way. There's also another method where you could go for something a bit like what I currently have in game, but this is more of a like get lucky on the trade site and work from that. If you're looking for a one like this, I think it's generally better to just see what's up on the trade site, see if you can get something with like cold and lightning and crit multi. Sometimes you can find stuff that is like about as good as this for like 10 divines. So I'll see what I can do about finding a mega cheap version of this craft. But usually the thing is just always check the trade site before you go for a craft like this, because often you're pretty surprised with what you can get. But here's only you want. Now what I need to do is make new gloves. I need to add quality. I've got a whole lot of things to do, but overall, when this is all set up, should be about 70% more damage. So I'm very, very excited about that. That's going to be it. Let me know if you have any questions or want to see any other crafts. I do have crafts with the tree linked in the build guide for this build. But yeah, for now, that's it. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Catch you in the next video, and bye-bye.
Enjoy our contests.